There is a specific kind of discomfort that the new world has now learned to monetize. And it's not physical pain. It's this quiet, persistent feeling that your bodies, as they naturally are now problems that you need to solve. And this feeling, it's not by accident. It's been engineered, refined, and it's carefully deployed in every screen that you own. And it has a new product to sell you. It's called Ozempic. And while millions around the world are injecting it weekly in the name of health and appearance, a quieter story unfolds. Something that doesn't just target your waistline. This targets your emotions, your hormones, your feelings, your motivation, your entire biological machinery, which is responsible for making you feel alive. This is that story.
Ozempic.
Ozempic.
Just take Ozempic.
Ozempic.
To understand the full picture, you have to start with diabetes. Ozempic, the brand name for a molecule called semaglutide, was approved in 2017 to help manage type 2 diabetes. The mechanism is elegant. It mimics a hormone your body naturally produces called GLP-1. This hormone tells your pancreas to release insulin, slows digestion, and critically tells your brain that you're full. Now for diabetics, this was actually transformative. But then, people started losing weight, a lot of it. By 2021, a higher dose version branded as Wegovy was approved for weight management. Within 2 years, it became a cultural phenomenon. Waiting lists formed, celebrities quietly slimmed down. Today, the GLP-1 market is a multi-billion-dollar global industry. It's projected to reach nearly $60 billion by 2035. You need to understand, it's one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. And the fuel driving it is not just medicine, it's insecurity. Now, here's a question worth sitting with. Why do people want to lose weight? The answer to that, you'll be surprised, is actually rarely about health. It's about this relentless pressure that slowly builds up, that has been building up for ages now. Communicated by the world 1,000 times over in 100 different ways. If you're slim, you're worth more. The beauty industry has cracked it. It has cracked the code to sell you a product. It has cracked the most reliable one actually. The only way to sell a product successfully in today's day and age is to make you feel inadequate without it. Take a minute and think about how whitening toothpastes are marketed. They're not marketed as a product for dental hygiene. They're marketed as a product differentiating between confidence and shame. The insecurity is your actual commodity. Ozempic happens to be the most powerful version of this formula. You know why? Because it does not ask you to apply a cream. It does not sell you a physical product. It sells you the idea. It restructures the way your body perceives hunger and desire. It targets your metabolism. It sells you the idea of liberation. Liberation from having a fat body. What it does not advertise is the actual price you have to pay for it. Now, to understand what Ozempic actually does, you need to know one thing. GLP receptors are not just in your gut, they're in your brain. Specifically, they are active in regions responsible for reward, motivation, emotional regulation. When you take Ozempic, you are modulating neurological circuits that govern how you experience pleasure and the will to pursue different things. And in the center of all this is dopamine. You need to understand, dopamine is responsible for making you feel motivation, for making you feel a sense of reward, for giving you the push that you need to pursue different things. Users are reporting something that the clinical language doesn't fully capture. It's a general flattening of desire. Reduced interest in alcohol, yes, but also in social ambition, creativity, the particular will that gets you out of bed every morning. This drug quietly numbs everything down. Now, for people with disordered relationships with food, this was quite a genuine relief. But for the rapidly growing population taking Ozempic just to enhance their appearances, to look different, I think then the real question for them is, at what cost are you purchasing this numbness? Now, the dopamine question is probably the least discussed side effect. But let's talk about muscle. Clinical trials have found that people on semaglutide can lose up to 14% of their lean muscle mass. When you lose substantial muscle, your resting metabolic rate drops. You become physically weaker. There are also emerging concerns about bone density and cardiac muscle loss. Now, Ozempic does not cure the underlying condition, so when people stop taking it, the hunger, the appetite, the food noise, it almost always returns. Sadly, sometimes with compounded force. Now, this is not a moral failing, it is pharmacology. When the drug is gone, your hormonal signaling reverts. And because the drug has affected your dopamine system, your reward circuits need time to recalibrate, often leaving a period of flatness, withdrawal, and in some documented cases, worsened mood and even depression. Ozempic is also like a mirror. For decades, a culturally genuine conversation was underway targeting the arbitrary standards of beauty, of how bodies are supposed to be like. The body positivity movement argued that the worth of a person should not be measured in dress sizes. And then, overnight, a drug comes into the picture that makes thinness chemically accessible to anybody who can pay $1,000 a month. Almost overnight, thinness again becomes the ideal. Just this time, the narrative is slightly different. It's not pressure, it's health. The result of this is now a biological class divide. Thinness is again becoming a marker of wealth. Not because wealthy people can have a better willpower, but because they can chemically opt out of the human experience of hunger. And the rest of the population, they are busy chasing a standard that is quite literally gated behind a paywall. Humans experience life hormonally. The grief, joy, desire, ambition that we all collectively end up feeling is a byproduct of neurochemical activity that goes on in our brain. Now, Ozempic does not leave the system untouched. You see, for some, it might manifest as reduced anxiety. However, for others, it manifests as something called emotional blunting. A graying, a blurring of the highs and lows of emotions that actually constitute to a fuller emotional life. In a world where motivation is already under attack by algorithm-curated comfort and passive entertainment, what does it mean to chemically suppress dopamine-powered machinery that makes us all care? So then when we as a society decide to numb our hormones in the name of aesthetics, we are potentially trading an emotionally and motivationally fuller life for a body shape that, by the way, society right now has decided in this moment in history is more acceptable. This story is not standing still. The pharmaceutical industry is already producing the next generation of these drugs. New medications target multiple hormonal pathways simultaneously, producing even greater weight loss. Oral formulations are in development. Prices are slowly dropping to deliberately lower the barrier to entry, expanding the market to anybody who simply wants to weigh less. This is not a trend, this is infrastructure. And the industry is manufacturing our insecurities. Social media, the beauty culture, the social comparison economy, they're only accelerating. None of this is an argument against the legitimate use of these medicines. For people with type 2 diabetes or clinically severe obesity, GLP-1 drugs actually prove to be a genuine medical advancement. But that is not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about the millions of people taking something, injecting something in their body because the society told them that their natural body is a problem, that now a pharmaceutical solution for it exists. For those people, I just have a couple of questions. Who told you to fix yourself? Who then profits when you actually believe them? When you numb the hunger, what else gets numbed with it? When you flatten your emotions, who is benefiting from that indifference? You need to understand the most sophisticated systems of control do not operate through force. They operate through comfort. They sell you the idea of numbness as peace. They make you feel that emotionally flattened living state is actually healthy. They make the flattened version of you feel like the healthy version. Ozempic is simply a culture learning to sell you chemical peace, but chemical peace in exchange of the harder, richer experiences of life. We told you we will talk about the truths that the world would rather you don't think about. This is one of them. Not because Ozempic is evil, but because everybody who's handing over their hormones, their emotions, their motivation, their dopamine, they need to know what they're exchanging them for. The body that you live in is not the problem. It's not something you need to fix. In fact, it is the only instrument through which you will experience everything that will ever matter to you. The least you can do is to think carefully who you let tune in.